Good morning. Thank you. I'm Hannah. I'm a registered dietitian over at Fawcett Hospital, not too far from here. I've been a dietitian for about 2 years now. I grew up in Minnesota, so I'm new to Florida as of the past year and a half. So I'm happy to be here. When I heard that the library was hosting this, I'm a book lover myself, so I'm part of my own book club, but maybe I'll have to look into what else the public library here offers. So I came in, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. It seems to be a popular topic right now. There's pros and cons and good and bad, and there's a lot out there in the internet that doesn't tell you what you should know, and a lot that tells you what you should. So I wanted to come in, talk a little bit about it, answer all your questions, and we'll go from there, okay? So to start, objectives for today is to identify foods that fit and don't fit into the Mediterranean diet style, to understand what inflammation is, and then how to incorporate preventative nutrition measures to counteract or avoid the inflammation in our body. And lastly, to explain why omega-3 fatty acids are important in reducing and preventing inflammation. So the components of the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet as a whole is an anti-inflammatory diet. Have you guys heard of the Mediterranean diet before? Okay, awesome. It's one step in the right direction. So anti-inflammatory diet can help decrease your risk for chronic diseases because inflammation is a common side effect of many chronic diseases. The diet is rich in fatty acids, and it focuses on whole foods. We have a focus on fiber, both soluble and insoluble. We avoid sodium and saturated fats, and then long-term, it can reduce our risk of inflammation by using these preventative nutrition measures. So what does anti-inflammatory mean? So first off, inflammation is our body's natural response to infection or injury. So that's automatically going to happen anytime we have an injury or an infection. So triggering factors for inflammation are free radicals. There's three things. Free radicals is the first thing. Okay, free radicals are unstable atoms, so they don't have a paired electron. Okay, when we have unpaired electrons, we need antioxidants to neutralize those free radicals, and that's why. Have you guys heard of antioxidants? That's why those are so important. Okay, oxidative stress is when we have that imbalance of free radicals and antioxidants. So when we don't have enough of one or the other, okay? And then the last thing is foreign pathogens, and that can be bacteria, that can be viruses, funguses, stuff like that. That can cause inflammation in the body as well. Inflammation in the gut is one of the most prominent places that our body can be inflamed when it comes to nutrition. Mostly in the small or the large intestine, but the whole GI system is able to be inflamed. This is a photo over here of our GI system from top to bottom. So the small and the large intestine are those areas that are most susceptible to inflammation. When we have inflammation in the gut, it can lead to a lot of different things. It can be abdominal pain, cramping, bloating, a lot of that kind of stuff that sometimes when we eat certain foods, you notice that your stomach feels upset. A lot of times that can be inflammation. Systematic inflammation is when we have acute inflammation, and it just happens if it's not treated properly or if it goes on for a long period of time, then it can affect our whole body, and that's what we call systematic inflammation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Chronic inflammation, like I had said before, is a common side effect in many chronic diseases, and that includes, but not only, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, cancer, and many, many more. So inflammation. What's that?
What was the IBS?
Irritable bowel syndrome. So that can be ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. And then the dietary influence, which is what we're going to focus on today, how we can eat certain foods to help prevent inflammation, and what foods can exacerbate that inflammation as well. All right. And if at any point, if you guys have questions, feel free to stop me. So acute versus chronic. So I really like this diagram up here because I feel like it kind of puts it into perspective. So up top, we have a cell that's not inflamed. Okay, so acute inflammation is when we have that infection or we have that injury. The first step is enhanced blood flow. So blood is going to flow to that area that is affected. Okay, and you can see from the top to the bottom, those ventricles start to inflate, and that's the increased blood flow. Okay, and when that inflates, then the next one is we have increased the vascular dilation. Then we have white blood cells, or neutrophils, and those help to treat infection in our body. So those all go to the infected area. Okay, they kind of swarm, and you can see the neutrophil immigration right here. And then we leak plasma, or we leak proteins out, and that is what we call edema, or swelling. So when you do have inflammation, that's why it swells up. That's why it's hot sometimes, because it produces that heat. So when you have inflammation, if you hit your arm or something and it starts to swell, that's those proteins leaking out, and that's that fluid leaking out. Okay, so we have the vascular dilation, where the veins and the arteries start to inflate with increased blood flow. We have the leakage, which causes the edema or the swelling of the body part. And then we have the white blood cells migrating to that region to help fight that infection. Again, this is acute inflammation. If it can't resolve naturally, that's when we go into chronic inflammation, which can then be systematic from head to toe. It can affect our whole body. So when we do have acute inflammation, we do want to make sure that we treat that accordingly so that it doesn't lead to a chronic condition. Omega-3 fatty acids. Have you guys heard of these before? Do we know what they are? Or is it just kind of like a term out there that we've heard? Because I know it's everywhere. So omega-3 fatty acids, it's a polyunsaturated fatty acid. Okay, so poly meaning multiple chained together. Unsaturated has to do with the actual chemical makeup of the structure. So it's a polyunsaturated fatty acid. We have omega-3 fatty acids, and then we also have omega-6 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. Omega-6 fatty acids are pro-inflammatory. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need omega-6 fatty acids. They're both extremely essential, but we need both of them in a equal ratio to make sure that we have overall anti-inflammatory properties. So I did say they were essential, which means that our body doesn't make them. We have to get them from food. Okay, and that's why it's so important to find these different, to have a wide variety of foods coming into your diet, because we need to make sure that we get these properties because our body can't make them on its own. Underneath that second bullet, I have a couple types of food that you can get omega-3 fatty acids from. Olive oil, canola oil, and flaxseed oil are the top 3 oils that typically have the highest amount of omega-3s in it for oils. We have fatty fish like mackerel and salmon and sardines. Walnuts are a really good one, and then chia seeds. So all of those foods are really good options to include into our diet to make sure that we're getting enough omega-3s. A lot of these also have omega-6s, which are, like we said, are also important. The ratio for omega-6 to omega-3 is about a 2-to-1 ratio in order to prevent inflammation. Omega-3s play a really important role in development, especially in children, in brain function, and then immune system health as well. The omega-3s can also lower our cholesterol or our triglycerides. So triglycerides are fat in the blood, which we don't want it to be very high. And then I know you guys have probably heard of good cholesterol and bad cholesterol, right? So our bad cholesterol is what we call LDL, low-density lipoproteins, and then our good cholesterol is what we call HDL, high-density lipoproteins. So having omega-3 fatty acids in our diet helps to increase our good cholesterol, that HDL, which then helps transport the bad cholesterol out of our system. So it's kind of like a big puzzle, but overall, we're increasing our good cholesterol to help lower our bad cholesterol. So not only does this help to prevent inflammation, but it has a lot of other helpful properties as well, including lowering our bad cholesterol. There are 3 types of omega-3 fatty acids. I can never pronounce all of these, but ALA, DHA, and EPA are what you'll usually see them as. ALA is alpha-linoleic acid. DHA docosahexaenoic acid, and EPA. Yeah, you guys are going to be quizzed on this later. No, just kidding. And EPA is eicosapentaenoic acid. But you guys you'll usually just see the three-letter abbreviations. ALA is usually found in most plant-based foods. So that's where you'll find a rich amount of those. Walnuts is a really good one where you'll find ALA. DHA and EPA are mostly found in fish. They're most abundant in fish. So the ALA is mostly in plants. The other two are mostly in fish foods that you'll find it.
Versus olive oil.
Good question. So the question was eating olives versus actual olive oil. Olives itself don't have quite the amount of omega-3s that the oil does. It's the process of making the oil that incorporates those fatty acids into it. Olives are still a good option, and they provide a lot of other nutrients as well. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Now we'll go into antioxidants. So I know we had touched briefly on those before, but I wanted to dive back into it to really show how important these are and how they work in tandem with omega-3 fatty acids. All right, so antioxidants, some of the main ones that you hear about are vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene, selenium, and manganese, okay? Those are the top ones, but there's a ton more. These are just the most common ones that we see. So antioxidants, like we had said before, neutralize those free radicals. And those free radicals, remember, were one of the triggering factors for inflammation. That's when the atom is unstable and it has a free electron. So when we have that unstable atom, if we pair it up with an antioxidant, then it neutralizes it, and it's no longer a triggering factor. Polyphenols are a type of antioxidant that you see pretty often. If you guys are familiar with nutrition labels, or if you look at your packages, if there's antioxidants in it, a lot of times you'll see polyphenol be the word that they use. Olive oil is a really good option of antioxidants. So if we know that olive oil is a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, and it's also a good source of antioxidants, olive oil is a pretty good option, okay, to add to our daily diet. Now, a little bit goes a long way with olive oil, but just keep that in the backs of your minds when you are cooking. Opting for olive oil over some of the other ones and using a little bit here and there can make a really big difference.
Okay.
Good to know. Okay, if you guys didn't hear that, she was saying that the extra virgin olive oil has a higher amount of antioxidants because it's cold pressed instead of using heat. And you're supposed to get extra virgin olive oil from one country, not a combination. Good to know. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the other is cheaper, but it doesn't give you what you need.
Sure, absolutely. All right, anything else? Yes?
What about avocado oil?
Avocado oil is a good option. It doesn't have quite as much unsaturated fats, so it's still a good option, but we have unsaturated fats and we have saturated fats. Unsaturated is our preference, and avocado oil has a little bit more saturated fats, so it's still good to use. Don't go throw all your avocado oil away. You can still use that by all means, but maybe next time we're at the grocery store, we pick up extra virgin olive oil, and we maybe incorporate that into our diet as well. But there's nothing wrong with avocado oil, just a different makeup of the fats. So on the right side of the screen, we have a bunch of different foods that antioxidants are found in. This is my favorite part because I got to put chocolate on my screen, and I love chocolate. So when we think of antioxidants, a lot of people think of berries, which is absolutely correct. They are a great source of antioxidants. But also apples. In the fruit category, apples are a really good source as well. We have dark chocolate, which I did bring a little snack for later today, so we, of course, incorporated dark chocolate into that. Spinach and kale, those leafy greens. Tomatoes are a great source. Walnuts and almonds. When we come to the nuts and seeds category, walnuts are our number one that has the most abundant antioxidants per serving. Almonds are a close second. Other nuts do also have antioxidants. Walnuts are just at that top of the list. So if we're going to have a nut mixture, if we can throw some walnuts in there, we'll get some extra antioxidants as well. When we talk about chocolate, if we are going to buy a chocolate bar, so one, chocolate has added sugar, which isn't ideal, but that's what helps it taste a little bit better. And added sugar is okay as long as we're not eating it in large amounts, right? So chocolate can have added sugar. It is higher in calories. It can have saturated fats. So there are different components where we wouldn't necessarily want to like overload our body with dark chocolate every single day. But having a little bit every day. So if you are buying a bar, maybe cutting the bar up, if it's breakable, or if you cut it up into, if it's a regular size candy bar, maybe we split it into like 6 pieces, and you just have a little bit each day. It's just for that little extra boost of antioxidants. Again, it's not our most abundant food in antioxidants, but it's kind of a fun way to add some beneficial nutrients into our body. We'll take the antioxidants, but we also get the added sugar, which is okay, but it's just a different option to mix it up. So to answer your question, it's kind of individualized, but if you're going to buy a chocolate bar, splitting it up into a couple different pieces to split out throughout the week or through a couple days is probably our best bet. Chocolate, like I said, there's a lot of other stuff that comes with chocolate. It is enjoyable to eat, so if we can switch to dark chocolate, it gives us some antioxidants. We should still treat it as a sweet treat. So we want to limit, eat it in moderation. We don't want to overboard ourselves, but just a little bit a day can go a long way. Okay, I know that didn't answer exactly how many Dove chocolates, but okay. Any other questions on that? All right. So another question, so to finish that list up there, we had the walnuts and the almonds. Cinnamon is a really good option for antioxidants as well. So if we're cooking or baking, if we're making coffee, whatever it might be, adding a dash of cinnamon can go a long way as well. And then coffee and tea. Again, coffee and some tea contains caffeine, so we do want to limit our overall intake. We don't want to rely solely on that source for our antioxidant intake, but if you're a coffee drinker like me, it is nice to know that you are getting some antioxidants when you drink it in the morning. There's a lot of controversy on nightshades and tomatoes and inflammation and that sort of thing. So some yes, but no. And I know that's confusing, but that's how nutrition is a lot of the times. Like you look up one question and you'll get four articles that say yes, 4 articles that say no, and then it's like, well, I didn't even get my answer. So tomatoes have a lot of benefits, okay? One, they're low calorie. So if you're trying to meet a calorie goal, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to maintain weight, they're a really great way to add flavor to your foods without adding calories. Second, they have a lot of different vitamins, okay? Third, they have a lot of antioxidants. So, if one article says they may create inflammation, but the other article says they're high in antioxidants, it's kind of like it could go either way. It might be based on your body too. This person might have a little bit of inflammation from tomatoes, might not tolerate it as well. So it is very individualized. I will say tomatoes are a great option. They have a lot of benefits. If they don't sit well with you, or if you feel like, yeah, maybe this isn't the food for me, then by all means, take them out of your diet. But I would say I wouldn't worry about inflammation with tomatoes because, it's scientifically proven that they do have the vitamins that are considered antioxidants, which theoretically would help to neutralize those free radicals and prevent inflammation. So if you eat them, like I said, it's very individualized. If you eat them and they work for you, great. If not, then we can skip out on those and add a different fruit or veggie to our diet. Okay? Supplementation. So I get lots of questions on this, and this is again, like we were talking about, nutrition is very like gray space. It's not necessarily black or white. The couple things I did want to touch on for supplementation of antioxidants is one, our bodies do make some antioxidants. So even if we're not getting a ton of those antioxidant-rich foods in every single day, our body's still making some of it, okay? Second thing is, as long as we add a couple of those foods into our diet, we're going to get enough antioxidants, okay? They're in a lot of foods. That list could go on and on and on, okay? There's lots of foods that have antioxidants, okay? So our body can make some. There's a lot of foods that can provide it. And the other thing is we don't really want to overconsume those antioxidants, okay? Like we said up here, these are non-soluble vitamins, so it's not like our body takes what they need and we excrete it out. They're not water soluble, okay? So we don't want to overdo it. Granted, you would have to really overdo it for there to be side effects, but it's just something we want to keep in mind. If we're taking an antioxidant supplement, that's providing us 400% of our daily value, but we're also making it in our body and we're also getting it from some food, we might be overdoing it. So it's just something to keep in mind. If every food that we talked about you're not a fan of and you don't eat, maybe that's something to look into, is supplementing it to make sure that you do have enough antioxidants in your body. But again, it's very, very individualized, so I can't say yes, do it, or no, don't. But I just wanted to touch on that since that is a question that we do get a lot of times. Circling back to the actual Mediterranean diet, if you're interested in incorporating this type of diet into your lifestyle, you can go all in and throw everything in your fridge away that doesn't fit, which can be kind of a drastic change. What I recommend is taking a couple of these things that we talk about today and just slowly start to incorporate them into your lifestyle. We don't have to 100% switch from today to tomorrow and be like, yep, I'm following the Mediterranean diet to a T. As long as we start to incorporate some of these little changes, you guys are going to see a lot of differences, big differences for sure. So what foods would you choose for the Mediterranean diet? I'm sure you guys are all familiar with like a food pyramid or the My Plate diagram. So this one's specific to the Mediterranean diet. On the bottom is just showing that we still need daily activity. Okay, activity and exercise is a really big one. Getting out and walking, lifting light weights, biking, yoga on the beach, whatever it might be, always going to be important, no matter what lifestyle or diet you choose to follow. Okay, so this bottom purple of the triangle is going to be our whole grains, our beans, nuts, seeds. That's kind of the basis of this diet. So every meal that you create on this diet, you're going to start with that base. Okay, then we go up, and as we go up, again, it's getting smaller, so it's just decreasing our portion sizes a little bit more. In the blue box, we have fruits and veggies. Again, important in every diet that we choose to follow. That's a huge basis of the Mediterranean diet because, again, we have a focus on whole foods, which are those fruits and veggies. And then, like we were talking about before, a lot of those different fruits and veggies have antioxidants, which is an important property. We go up one more. And olive oil has its own box because that's how important it is. So that green bar in the middle is olive oil. Okay, again, a little bit of olive oil goes a long ways, but just incorporating it into our cooking, into our, I have a couple recipes at the end of this slideshow where it's like if you're making a sandwich, a little drizzle of olive oil. It's super easy to incorporate into different foods, different meals, different recipes, whatever it may be. But like I said, a little bit goes a long way with that. Then we move up to the yellow box, and that's our protein source. So the protein source in the Mediterranean diet stays away from red meat. It limits poultry too, even though it's a really good source of protein. They really focus on fish and seafood, okay, which are really good sources of protein, but they also contain a lot of those omega-3 fatty acids, which is the focus of the Mediterranean diet, okay? Poultry is a really good source of protein as well. It just doesn't contain high amounts of omega-3s. It's a very low-fat protein option. So by all means, you do not have to cut that out of your diet. Chicken and turkey are really good sources of protein. They just don't provide that extra bit of fat that a lot of fish does. Red meat is a good source of protein as well. It has higher fat, but it has higher saturated fats, where a lot of the fish and seafood that are fatty are unsaturated fats. So red meat is also a good source of protein, but should be limited, maybe not an everyday sort of meal. Disperse that a little bit throughout your week to still provide yourself protein, but limit that saturated fats. All right, then we move up to the little orange box, and that is where we're going to have the eggs, cheese, poultry, and yogurt. So like I said, we're still, poultry is still okay. It's a really good source of protein. The egg and the cheese, it's our dairy products. So that also provides protein. When we are following the Mediterranean diet, we do want to choose low-fat or no-fat dairy products. When we have like whole milk or full-fat cheese and that kind of stuff, it is saturated fats, which again, we try to limit as much as we can. So low-fat or no-fat dairy products are up in that little orange box there. And then at the top there are the red meats that we had talked about before. So again, still okay to have every once in a while, but just not an everyday kind of thing. Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know if you can answer this question because depending on what doctor you ask, you get a different answer. Are eggs good cholesterol or bad cholesterol?
That is such a good question. I'm so glad you brought it up. Are eggs, did you say are eggs good cholesterol or bad cholesterol, right? So eggs are a fantastic food to eat. They are a good source of protein, both the yolk and the egg white. If you eat the whole egg, it's even more protein. The yolk contains so many vitamins and minerals. Eggs are a great food to incorporate into your diet. There is a lot out there that says don't eat eggs because they're full of cholesterol. Now, the thing about the cholesterol and the eggs is it's considered dietary cholesterol, okay? And there are so many articles out there that show, scientifically prove, that your dietary cholesterol does not directly affect your blood cholesterol. Okay, so thank you again for bringing that up because, yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people, I mean, you go back in history and it's like, eat eggs, don't eat eggs. Eat only the egg yolk, don't eat the egg white. Eat the egg white, don't eat the egg yolk. And it's like, okay, who's going to tell me what the answer is? So as of the most recent research lately, and this has been for quite some time now, the eggs, both yolk and the egg white, are very, very beneficial to our health. They should be eaten in a normal diet. They can be eaten every day, every other day, whatever you want. But they do provide a lot of benefits to our diet, and the cholesterol, the dietary cholesterol in them should not be of concern to our blood cholesterol. So, you know, when you have tuna fish in water, that's usually our best bet. You still get the protein benefits, but there's not a whole lot of added salt, and it's not, you know, soaked in whatever types of oils or vinegars that they put it in. So if you can find something that doesn't have added salt, when we're talking about foods in a can, no added salt, because, you know, limiting our overall salt intake is healthy for our heart. And then if it's canned in water, that's usually a good bet too. But when we do have canned foods, they still have the same protein as if you were to have a full tuna fish or canned tuna, you're still getting the protein benefits out of it. Good question. So when they say, like, if you're getting a no sugar candy or a sugar-free candy, it's usually skyrocketed in fat. So you're absolutely correct. Those labels, they can kind of say like, oh, well, there's no fat in here, but we just added like 20 grams of added sugar to make it taste good. So being familiar with nutrition labels is really important. I'm sure you guys have all seen a nutrition label on your products that you buy at the grocery store or whatnot. There is a section, it was just updated in 2022. All nutrition labels have a specific thing, specific category that says added sugars. So before it was just sugars, now they all have added sugars, and that's anything that doesn't occur naturally. Okay, so some products, if you are going for a low fat or a no fat item, yeah, you'll see on the label they up that sugar. But if it's a good product, if they're making the cheese differently, if they're making the milk differently, you'll see that fat lowers, but they won't increase the sugar as well. Okay, so that is something, I'm glad you brought that up, that is something to keep in mind, is to, you know, just going up and down the aisles and taking a peek at those nutrition labels, you'll learn a lot. It's really fascinating going through and looking. It's like, wow, I never knew this had this and this, or I never knew this had this and this. So yes, keeping in mind the added sugar, you'll also see total fat, and then it breaks it down into saturated and unsaturated. If you're looking at two products and one of them has more unsaturated versus saturated, choose the unsaturated one, okay? So it is good to familiarize yourself with the labels. Some of those products will increase one or the other to make it taste good. But if you're getting a good product and you're reading the label and opting for a brand that does it the right way, let's take milk, for example. If you take a whole milk versus a skim milk, the protein's the same, the carbohydrates or the sugars are the same, it's just the fat content that's different. And that's what you should look for in other products as well. Mm-hmm. The question was about farm-raised versus fresh-caught fish. Yeah. So that's another big nutrition topic that's very, very controversial. Same thing with like grass-fed beef or cage-free chicken or eggs, whatnot. Everything that farmers use to produce their product has to be cleared through the CDC and the FDA. Okay, so I don't know about antibiotics. I don't know about the specifics. But I do know that everything they do is to benefit their produce and their product to help feed our increasing population. Everything they do has to be cleared through the CDC, through the FDA. Again, I don't know the exacts. If you have a personal preference choosing one over the other, by all means. A lot of them are pretty similar nutrition-wise. It's going to be a personal preference of what you choose to purchase based on the research that you do on your own time. Because it is hard to say one way or the other. But just know that everything that they do, whether it's poultry or fish or vegetables and herbicides, pesticides, whatever it may be that you hear about, everything that the farmers do to produce their product has to be cleared by the country to make sure it is safe for human consumption. Okay, good question. Yes?
What's your take on bioengineered food?
I think that everything they do to provide the food for our country and for our increasing population is a really, really good thing. You know, you hear about genetically modified organisms. The things that they do to them, it doesn't necessarily change the chemical makeup of the food. It just allows them to produce more. Again, I don't know all the details of it and the specifics. That's something that is very individualized as well. But the fact that they are able to increase their production to help feed all of us, I mean, because it has to go through so many different measures to make sure that it is safe for the human consumption, by all means, if we're able to help feed more people, then I'm all for it. B12, yes. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, you often do not get enough B12 in your diet because it is most abundant in animal products. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, yes, you probably need B12 supplementation. There are ways to get it outside of animal products, but you have to eat a lot of that one thing. So, like, for example, somebody once told me, well, my cereal in the morning has B12, but it's like this much. Okay, so being very aware of what you're eating as a vegan or a vegetarian is important to make sure that you are getting enough protein. The reason that you can get enough protein on a vegan or vegetarian diet but might not meet those B12 needs is because a lot of proteins in a vegan or vegetarian diet are not complete proteins. So they give you part of what you need, but it's not a complete protein, which is what animal proteins do provide you. Yeah, whole grains are, I mean, it's a pretty wide variety, but I think they have little pictures on here, but whole grains can be different types of rices or barley or bread, noodles, pasta. Whole grains is just how they're made. So if you see whole wheat on your carbohydrate products, that's what you're looking for, as opposed to something that's processed, like white bread versus wheat bread. If you see whole wheat, that's what you're looking for. But any of the different grains that are whole grains or whole wheat is a good option. Okay? And the reason they're whole wheat versus white is because they have more fiber, which helps to, one, not have our blood sugar raise quite as quickly, but two, helps with our GI system as well. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? All right. So the last thing I have here, we'll just swing through a couple different recipes. I think I was going to send the slideshow over, so you guys should have access to it on the YouTube video, so you can see all these different recipes. A couple, I just did breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack that would fall into the Mediterranean diet lifestyle. So this is just an egg sandwich in the morning. We have some multi-grain sandwich thins, so that's where our whole grains come in. Eggs and spinach and tomato. Do a little bit of cheese. Drizzle that olive oil on there for the extra omega-3s and antioxidants. Super easy breakfast to make. Like I put on here, total time, 20 minutes in the morning. And if you prep all your fruits and veggies the night before, it takes even less time. So that's a good option for breakfast. Then we have a lunch option, a shrimp, avocado, and feta cheese wrap. Again, if we have a whole wheat tortilla that we use, we can put in shrimp or whatever fish or seafood of your choice that you'd want. Avocado and tomato. Again, we add some feta cheese, scallion and lime juice to taste. Add like a nice fruit on the side, like that watermelon there. Again, a super easy option that provides you a lot of omega-3s and antioxidants. Dinner would be a garlic roasted salmon and Brussels sprouts. We have the salmon, which provides lots of omega-3s. We have Brussels sprouts, which is a good veggie, garlic, olive oil, a little bit of white wine, oregano, and then lemon and salt and pepper to taste. If you put this in the oven, cook the Brussels sprouts a little bit first, and then add the salmon, then it's perfect. Again, it is really yummy. I just made it the other day. It's fantastic. But again, a good source of omega-3s from that salmon. And then adding that olive oil as well adds those omega-3s and antioxidants. Yeah, so the skin, you can eat it with or without. It does provide additional vitamins and minerals, but if you do take the skin off, you're still going to get the omega-3s from the fish itself, the meat itself. a dessert hero mulesi, which is basically like a granola without the added oil and sugars. Add some raspberries or a different fruit, and some milk for that extra protein. Whenever we do have a meal, we want to make sure we get a protein source in there. Super easy dessert. Could be considered a breakfast as well, but we would want to make sure we have a protein source on the side. Okay? And lastly, a nice snack is a trail mix, which I actually brought for you guys today. This is super easy to put together. Again, I said I was going to incorporate that dark chocolate, of course. We have walnuts, sunflower seeds, a dried fruit of choice. I have 3 different options, so I'll lay it out for you guys. But this is a really easy snack. You can make it for yourself for one day, or you can make it for a group of people. Super easy way to get in lots of nutrients per the Mediterranean diet lifestyle. Okay, got some references there. Any questions? You guys had a lot of good questions throughout, so that was awesome. Anything else that you guys came up with? Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm going to put together the trail mix over here, and I'll have some cups laid out. There's mango, blueberry, and I don't remember the last one, but you guys will find out. But I'll hand it over to them. I'll put the trail mix together while they're chatting. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to come up to me and ask me by all means, okay? Thank you, guys.
So for today's recipe, I just prepared something that most of us have already made before in the past, which is basically just roasted vegetables. I picked the oven roasted vegetables for today. You can also throw it under the broiler if you like it a little bit more charred, or if you have a nice propane grill at home, you could also grill them. So normally when I make my dish, I will prepare my vegetables, start those cooking, and then I'll get my shrimp ready, and then once the vegetables are getting close to being done, I'll throw the shrimp on top of the vegetables and just let it finish cooking that way. I don't know if anybody here has shellfish allergies. I kept them separate for today, so the shellfish has never touched the vegetables. So if you're vegan or if you have shellfish allergies, you're safe to touch the vegetables. There's no shrimp involved there. I prepared the shrimp separately, so if you enjoy shrimp, we'll also have a platter of shrimp for you too. So it's basically Mediterranean cooking without being fancy. It's something that we're already used to. It's just roasted vegetables, and instead of creating some red meat dish, I just cooked up some shrimp too.
I did a one-pot meal, which everybody is not one bit surprised. It is on page 7. It's one hot pasta, and I made it this morning. The only thing I had to do last night was cut up the onion and mince the garlic. And this morning, you dumped in everything else. So it's linguine, vegetable broth. You put in the onion and the garlic that I did last night, the green and black pitted olives, grape tomatoes, artichoke hearts, pinch of salt, pinch of pepper. Voila. As it cooks, towards the end of it, when the vegetable broth is pretty much gone, you just mix in fresh feta cheese and fresh dill, and that with the water that's in there, it kind of becomes like a coating. So that's what is there. So it's a double batch. Of course, it might be a tad sticky, but I worked on making it and tried not to as sticky as I wanted. But that's what it was. Super simple. Never had made that before because Mediterranean. Husband's not an olive fan, so that was like, he's like, I don't think I'll eat that one. The other one that I tried, which I did not make today, but I tried a couple weeks ago, was roasted chickpeas. Because I thought, oh, that would be a great, like, crispy snack. I could not get them to be as crispy as I wanted. So I used the can and basically took them out, drained the can, set them out on a towel so they would dry, left them out for a long time. Then I put paper towels over them to keep getting them drier. Put them in the toaster oven at 400 degrees with drizzle of olive oil. And then the seasoning, I just use, I mixed up cayenne pepper, paprika, black pepper and salt. And they tasted fine. They weren't as crispy as I wanted. So I cooked them, it said for 10 to 15 minutes. I cooked them for probably 45 minutes. Still not as crispy as I wanted. So I liked I liked the seasoning, but and some of them were fine. They just weren't crispy. They were still good. They just weren't crispy like I wanted.
What if you put them in a dehydrator for a couple hours?
That's possible. I don't have a dehydrator. But yes, I think that would have been, if I had one, I would have tried that.
Did you take the skin off of them?
I did. I took the skin off when I rinsed them and patted them dry. I took the skins off. They just weren't. I wanted crispy because I'm a salt person. I like crunch. I take that over sweet any day of the week. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I just wanted it crunchier. It wasn't bad. It wasn't as crunchy as I wanted.
Okay, I'm Spencer. For those of you that have not are new to the team here, thank everybody for coming. It seems like every meeting we get more and more new people. That's great. So I got two things to show you. Now some of you that are regulars, you're probably thinking, oh, Spencer's going to do something healthy. Oh no, this is Mom's recipe. So one of the things that Mom likes to make is this, and this is in your books on page 8. It's called, we call it spaghetti bake because it uses one of these things. If you've not seen it, it's a spaghetti squash. So you can get this at the Wally World or Publix, wherever you want to go. She wanted me to be sure to tell you the hardest thing of this entire meal is splitting this sucker in half. So be very careful with your knife. I don't know if you can cut the flat spot off the end, and then I don't know if it's easier this way or maybe taking a little bit off of here and trying to get it stabilized so you can cut it. So basically what we do is she roasts it. So you split it, put it on a sheet pan for 400. Where is she? Do you add oil or anything to it? A little oil around the edge. All right. So there you go. 400 for an hour. This is what it looks like when it comes up. Don't worry, we're not going to eat this one. So if you guys can see all the strands in there, and then you take your fork, which this is our fork today, and it's spaghetti now. So if you're trying to do like a pasta dish, I know with the pyramid, they were talking about, watch your carbohydrates and that kind of stuff. This might be a good option to replace that with a vegetable. So then she adds a package of the stuff called frozen seasoning blend. It has onion, celery, bell pepper, and a little bit of parsley flake in it. And we use ground turkey. So she cooked up the vegetables and the ground turkey and put the marinara sauce with it, mixed it all up with the squash in a bowl, sprayed the pan, put it in there. Now what we decided to do last night was she made it ahead. So you can do this as a make ahead and then just throw it in the ice box, and then whenever you need it, pull it out. It took about an hour and a half at 350 because it was cold. So if you're going to make it and then bake it right away, maybe 45 minutes, an hour. So you want to wait till it starts bubbling and then go ahead and put your cheese on. Give it another 15 minutes or so to kind of brown it a little bit. You guys will see when you come up. These are pretty hot. And that's it. So it's kind of like a nice little Italian meal that's a lot healthier for you than maybe doing the big load of traditional pasta. So we'll leave these up here so you guys can take a look and see what they look like. There's two of them here. All right, so that's the spaghetti bake. So then the other thing is, at the office we were all kind of laughing like, what in the world of, I wanted to make something Mediterranean. Got to figure this out. So what we landed on was an olive oil yogurt cake. Now she just said olive oil is very healthy. Let me tell you, this cake is the healthiest cake in this entire planet. Because there's a whole lot of olive oil in there. I believe this is also in your book. Page 4, there we go. Thank you in the back. Glad somebody knows what's going on here. Okay. So we were looking through, we actually have the Cook's Illustrated Mediterranean book that you can get. I think we might even have a copy of it at the library. It's a fairly nice book. It's about yay thick. And my wife was looking through it last night and she says, hey, there's an olive oil cake in here. And I said, oh, there is? Because I got it from someplace else. And I looked at the ingredients, it was exactly the same. So somebody had borrowed it from Cook's Illustrated, okay? It's pretty simple. Now, again, it's got some stuff in here that's not so great, but, right, we got flour, all-purpose, baking powder, salt. There's your sugar. So maybe you could half the sugar to help yourself out a little bit, or do maybe that sugar replacement to maybe lighten it up some. Eggs, those are healthy. Okay, we can get on that. Extra virgin olive oil, the whole milk yogurt, and then a little lemon glaze. The glaze is the 10X or powdered sugar with the lemon juice. I gotta tell you, when I mixed this up last night, I said there is no way this is gonna work. Because all the cakes I'm used to are you aerate your butter or your shortening and all the stuff you're not supposed to eat, and it's nice and thick, and you put it in your, this was almost like water. I said, this is not gonna turn into a cake. So, now this says bundt cake, right? Okay. So since 150 people signed up for this, right, we made 2. So this is a 12-cup bundt cake, and Suzanne let me borrow hers. This is a 6-cup. So I doubled the recipe, and we've got, well, you'll see it when you come up here. I filled this about 2/3-ish full and 2/3-ish full, and we got 2 roughly out of this. Has anybody ever played with a bundt pan before? Okay. Let me guess, you threw it out after the first or second try, right? There's a trick I've found to these things. First of all, I've used the knockoff ones. Usually I'm all about buy whatever you got cheap. This time, get the Nordic Ware bundt pan. They work. The other stuff, I've had nothing but problems with. The other thing is, buy the Baker's Joy spray if you're going to be doing this, because this is the only thing I have found when you turn it upside down, you don't have to pray that it's going to come out. So this is definitely worth its weight in gold. So I just take this, and the other thing I do is I don't let this linger in the pan. So when it's ready to be filled and baked, I spray the pan, I put the batter in it, I put it right in the oven. I don't spray it, let it sit on the counter for while you're getting everything ready. So spray it and go. The other thing is, you want to try a toothpick on this? Yeah, good luck. So, right, use a skewer. This works. I don't trust this though. You guys know I'm a thermometer person. Cake's done at about 205 degrees, right? You can agree, it's okay. Yeah, right. Perfect. So, I put this in the big one. It said it was done because there was some crumbs on the end. But I stuck the thermometer and it said $180. That's 180 degrees for those of you who don't speak New York English. So I left it in for another 10 minutes till it came up to 200. Then I pulled it because I know the carryover cooking is going to a little bit more. The other secret I found to bundt cakes, the secret number to let it cool for me has been 10 minutes. Let it sit there for 10 minutes, then put your cooling rack on top, flip the whole thing over, and it will come out. At least that's been my experience. So, but if you don't have a thermometer, use this. This is good for a bundt cake, right? That's long enough. But, you know, get you a $10 digital thermometer. It's really great, especially if you're cooking meat, poultry, that kind of thing, to make sure everything's really done.
So what I have is some Mediterranean couscous. There's a little recipe up here. And so this is super simple. And I got all the stuff together before we came. So all you do, I'm just heating up the liquid that goes in it. You put equal parts of couscous and the liquid. So I just measured this out, you know, before I came. So it's always just equal parts. And then all you do is heat up the liquid that you're putting in it, and you can put a variety of different things. I have a very good friend who's German who gave me this little trick. The liquid that I use is half tea and half chicken broth. And it's absolutely delicious. Before I always made it with water, and he said, "You're not doing it right." And so I started making it with the half tea and half chicken broth, and it's absolutely delicious. And so you just have to get it warm, heat it up, and then you mix it in with the couscous, stir it up, cover it up, and let it sit for 5 minutes. Take it off of the heat, cover it up, let it sit for 5 minutes. That's it. The couscous is done. And then you can add in whatever you want. And so because this is Mediterranean, I put a little mixture. I have in here zucchini, cucumber, some orange and red peppers, some Kalamata olives, and I have green onion and parsley and some tomatoes. So we'll mix that in there, and In my world, that makes it Mediterranean. Is it hot?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, so this is just half tea and half chicken broth. Equal parts. It's gonna look kind of soupy. I don't know if you guys can see it. Looks like super soupy when you do that. But you just stir it and then cover it up. In 5 minutes, it's not gonna be soupy at all anymore. It'll soak in all of that juice. And then you just fluff it up, you add these things in there, stir it up, and give it a little squeeze of lemon, and it's done. That's it. That's simple.